Hello, everyone, and welcome to Telling Stories. I'm Kevin Prake, and today my guest is the founder of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame and the founder of New England Fan Fest. He's also the coordinator of that as well, Mr. Joe Bruen. Joe, how you doing today?
Very good, Kevin. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you taking the time and thinking of me, and it's a pleasure to be here. So thank you.
Likewise, I am incredibly honored to be able to talk to you and to be able to pick your brain here. And thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule with all your events coming up.
Absolutely, no, without a doubt.
So now I mentioned you're the founder of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. What made you want to start a Hall of Fame based out of New England?
Well, New England wrestling has such a rich history. There's so much. Um, there's just so much history that goes way, way back, and I guess anybody could say from whatever area they're from that there are rabid fans, but I feel that New England, has such a hardcore fan base of loyal, diehard wrestling fans. New England based fans have always been, so diehard. So, um, it was, I was a ring announcer. I know you had Rich Palladino on here recently, and really enjoyed that interview, by the
Thank
way.
you.
And so I was a ring announcer. I did different things in the wrestling business, which we could talk about. But basically, I wanted to create an outlet to recognize talents that maybe wouldn't be recognized otherwise. So you see all the big name talents recognized on a regular basis, but some of the guys on a local level here in the local scene that have put in the work, that have put in the time, maybe go unnoticed. And I wanted to change that. So I started the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. At the time, I was the booker for APCW, Action Pack Championship Wrestling. It was a small independent promotion based out of Massachusetts. And I was the booker. I was also the ring announcer for the shows there. And I decided to implement the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame during the intermission of the show. So it would be in the ring, and it would kind of fill that void of intermission for anybody who didn't want to step away. And really the idea was to so people wouldn't step away. It would kind of keep the attention. So I would honor a few of the local talents. Started off small with just a few. We had 3 mini ceremonies in the ring. Each ceremony was about 30 minutes, at different shows. And that was in 2008 when I started that. 2009 is when I turned it into its own event. So I wanted to set it apart from an actual wrestling show and have the Hall of Fame be its own event. So I rented out a banquet hall and had, an event just surrounded by the Hall of Fame atmosphere. So that was really special in 2009, and a huge turnout. So, I was thankful for that. It was great to see so much support from the wrestling community. And it just got bigger and better each year. We would continue running the Hall of Fame. And 2010 is when I decided to add the Fan Fest aspect to it. So I kind of turned it into, kind of a double whammy. At that time, it was a 2-day event with both events. So,
Wonderful story. And you mentioned that you're highlighting the people that may or may not be highlighted otherwise. Why is that important to you?
well, I guess because I have a passion like no other when it comes to when it comes to pro wrestling, and being a part of it myself. I was a manager. I did ring announcing. Did some commentary. I was a promoter, so I kind of saw all the different aspects and lived through the different aspects of wrestling behind the scenes. And you see so many great talents come through that curtain, and sometimes you never see them again. And it's some of it's hearsay and, oh yeah, I remember that guy. So I wanted to just create a platform to get these people, these gals and girls, remembered, and continue on their memory. You know what I mean? And right now our website's under construction, but we're going to have more of a detailed website moving forward, where you're going to be able to click on any class of the Hall of Fame, click on any talent that's in, each class, and it'll give a full bio of each talent and, video of their speech if we have access to it, and, some background, different things. So looking forward to getting that underway.
That sounds like a great project to be had and a great way to preserve and recognize the talent as you've been talking about.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm also, you said preserve. That's also been something that I've always been big into in general. I'm kind of a wrestling historian. I enjoy preserving the history of pro wrestling. I collect different artifacts and items from wrestling's past, and I like to preserve them, have them on display, and here at the house as a collector, and in front of the public sometimes at events. So that means a lot to me.
Now, speaking of the artifacts, there is a man by the name of Steve Taylor, who I know you're familiar with, who has taken a lot of the promo pictures, who will be receiving the New England Icon Award. So it ties in the fact that you have the person that's responsible for a lot of the merchandise and a lot of the pictures that we know today from that period of time, and now you're honoring him.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I've always been a big fan of not just artifacts, but promo photos, the promotional photos themselves. Always been huge into them since I was a kid. My mom sent away a letter actually to the WWF Titan Towers for my birthday to surprise me. And they actually returned her mail and sent an autographed Bret Hart promotional photo. And that was from 1995. And that was my first official promo photo. And that's kind of what got me hooked. And from there, I just kept collecting. And when it comes to the shots themselves, like you said, Steve Taylor is one of the most legendary photographers. There were some others, Roy London, Tom Buchanan, of course. But when it comes to Steve Taylor, he's kind of taken so many of those iconic shots that fans remember, and some fans don't even know the name behind some of those photos. So this is also a good opportunity to showcase Steve and really put him on the map with maybe newer fans who don't know the history. But certainly receiving the New England Icon Award is a big honor. We don't do the New England Icon Award every ceremony, so it's kind of every once in a while. Larry Bonoff and the Warwick Musical Theater, they were a recipient before, of course, Tim White and the Friendly Tap. So it is something special. And Steve Taylor is certainly well deserving. And not only was he a photographer, he moved his way up the ranks within the WWF, the WWE. He was there from '83, I believe, until 2005. A lot of people don't know that, but he stayed on pretty long, and he was right up there. I mean, he was one of the big wigs there. So he was responsible for a lot. And then he went on to work for Madison Square Garden after that. So he's enjoying retirement now, and it's just a good time to honor his work. And it's the New England Icon Award, but of course he's showcased his work all around the globe. But just in New England alone, he's just done so much and taken so many memorable shots. So it's going to be nice to hear the speech and hear the different stories of his career.
Now, for those that may not know, can you speak a little bit about what the New England Icon Award is?
Yeah, so the New England Icon Award, it's you're an inductee into that particular class, just like all the other inductees, except it's kind of one step beyond. So not only are you an inductee, but it's kind of a more of a prized, position. The New England Icon Award, Friendly Tap and Tim White, we sometimes tie in a venue or something with the New England Icon Award. So not only was it Tim White, but it was the bar that he owned, the Friendly Tap, and it was just such an iconic location, here in the New England scene, and that's kind of how it started, using that name, and of course Howard Finkel as well, New England Icon. so we kind of just tied that in as far as the name goes. Somebody who just really left their mark here in the New England scene, and has really gone above and beyond with the work that they've produced, basically, or the
No,
the legacy that they've left.
absolutely. Now you mentioned your time as a ring announcer, and you started ring announcing for Unified the Championship Wrestling. And I was wondering if you could tell me a few stories from that time period.
Yeah, so I used to go to the shows early on when I first started in the business, 1998. I had a wrestling talk show for Cox Cable, Joe's Hardcore Wrestling Talk Show. Um, it was a unique time. I was 16. It was and just an awesome experience for me to be involved on any level, but to be so heavily involved right off the bat. I was doing backstage interviews for my show at the shows, so I was traveling to different independent shows and doing that, and I was doing in studio interviews as well, doing all my own editing and everything. So it was a lot to take on at that age. Um, but I really enjoyed doing so. And I was there filming matches like I always would be at a UCW show. Unified Championship Wrestling was at the Barton Street Community Center in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Very small place. There were probably 30 people in the crowd. It was a small show. And the ring announcer didn't show up or couldn't make it for whatever reason. Um, so they saw me with the mic. I was kind of commentating behind the scenes for my show, and they were like, "Hey, Joe, would you have any interest in announcing tonight?" And ring announcing for me was always so special. Howard Finkel, rather than the wrestlers, Howard Finkel was the person that I always looked up to. So as a kid, when I would be using the action figures, it was more so all about the entrance, and I would try to emulate Howard Finkel's voice, and it was all about the production of them coming to the ring. So it was always announcing for me. So when I had the opportunity to actually do it in person, I was kind of nervous, number one, but all for it. I said, you know what? Absolutely, let's do it. Come to find out that the ring announcer that couldn't make it, not only was he the ring announcer that evening, but he was the sound guy. So now I don't have a microphone either. So they said, you got to speak up. I'm like, oh gosh. All right. So, luckily it was a small crowd, small venue. And it was for Anthony Rufo. He was the owner of UCW. He wrestled as Mr. Troubleman, Mr. Montero, passed away, unfortunately. Great guy. And a fellow, New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer as well, class of 2008 in the inaugural class. And Anthony was a great guy, gave me that opportunity, and never looked back, really. I mean, they really enjoyed my work, and I ended up ring announcing regularly for UCW, and went on to other promotions as well. Became friendly with Rich Palladino back then. So Rich Palladino was the ring announcer for IIW, International Independent Wrestling, among other promotions. But I would always be at the IIW shows, and sometimes I would fill in for Rich if he couldn't make it. So there were 2 or 3 occasions where I ring announced IIW, when Rich couldn't make it. Um, I would be at all the chaotic wrestling shows. I'd travel to the shows with some of the guys, and Rich was contracted there. He was like the voice of chaotic wrestling and still is to this day. And I had the opportunity to ring announce one show for chaotic wrestling that Rich, for whatever reason, couldn't make it to. So that was a very nice opportunity for me. Primal Conflict Wrestling, PCW. I was their regular ring announcer, as well as the WWA, which was run by Mike Spada. They were almost like a non-official WWE affiliate at that time. Like, Tom Pritchard was there. He was an agent, a scout, talent scout for WWE at the time. So he was at all the shows, and Chris Candido sometimes would be the booker backstage. And it was always a unique situation, a lot of people involved, and really cool. So, I was also Killer Kowalski's personal ring announcer for Killer Kowalski All Star Wrestling, just for a short period of time, maybe a year or two, towards the tail end of his shows. And just a lot of opportunities, like I said, APCW, Action Pack Championship Wrestling, and a few others.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned you're a big fan of the late Howard Finkel, and you've had the Fink be a MC for a vast amount of the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame ceremonies. What did that mean to you?
That was unbelievable. Like I said, he was the one that I looked up to, and I would always emulate his voice. And even at pay-per-view parties or whatever it may be, I'm always yelling out announcements in Howard's voice, and that was a very cool opportunity to. How it started, 2010. I went to Pompton Plains, New Jersey, and it was for the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, which at the time they were based out of Amsterdam, New York. They were doing a special banquet dinner in Pompton Plains, and Howard Finkel was the MC for that evening. So it was a sit-down dinner. I walk in, everybody's mingling beforehand, and Howard Finkel approaches me and my buddy Steve, who was there with me, and he's like, "Where are you guys coming from?"
That is incredible.
Yeah, and
It sounded spot on.
and it was just mind-boggling that I'm even standing there with Howard Finkel, somebody I looked up to. Now I had met him as a fan over the years, just very brief at a WWF show or something, but now I'm standing there with him, actually having a conversation, and it's a different story. So it kind of adds a different layer to things. And he asked where we were coming from and what brought us to the event. And once I said that I was coming from Rhode Island and my buddy was coming from Massachusetts, out of nowhere, he goes, "Oh, well, you must be familiar with the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame." And I was speechless because, Howard Finkel knows about, my Hall of Fame that I've started. I couldn't believe that. And I literally was speechless. I didn't know what to say. I was just kind of mind boggled. And my buddy Steve had to step in and said, "Well, yeah, this is Joe. He runs the New England Hall of Fame." And we just hit it off from there. And Howard's like, "You mind if I join you at your table for dinner?" So he sat with us at our table, and it was a round table, maybe 5, 6 people per table. Um, One of the agents, Scott Epstein, the late Scott Epstein, he was at our table, as well as the late Bob Mulren, a photographer, WrestlingFigs.com. So we had a lot of cool people to talk to and bounce stories off of. Um, and Howard Finkel sat with us and we picked his brain, and he told us story after story after story. And he actually ended up saying to me, basically offering his services for the New England Hall of Fame. If you ever keep me in mind, I would absolutely love to host your ceremony. And that was, in my mind, not even a possibility. I mean, what, Howard Finkel? Okay, So once I realized he was serious about it, he wasn't just being nice and throwing that out there. I contacted him. He gave me his contact. We kept in touch, and he debuted for me the following year, 2011. He hosted the Fan Fest as an MC, and he did an entrance of the stars when all the guys came out, for the Fan Fest. He'd introduce them one at a time, and he hosted the ceremony that night, 2011. And we took 2012 off. 2013, he was back with us hosting the ceremony. 2014, 2015. So, he was doing it every year for us. And yeah, that was just unbelievable. And he actually became a really good friend, and we would talk on the phone all the time. And he was, so generous, always giving me tickets to the shows, and just a wealth of knowledge. The stories that he would share over the phone were unbelievable. He hooked me up with Chief Jay Strongbow. He said, he called me up one day and so, Joe, how would you feel about having Chief Jay Strongbow at the Fan Fest? And at that point, Chief wasn't doing a lot. He was very selective in what he did. So I said, "Oh my gosh, I mean, Chief Jay, that would be, unbelievable to appear at the Fan Fest." So we made that happen through Howard. So that was a big deal. And same with Bob Backlund. We had a surprise appearance where Bob Backlund came out. and kind of said us some nice words about Chief, about Martell, about Tito, because they were all inducted that night. And that was a surprise put together by Howard as well. So we did a lot of cool things together, and booked Howard for my good friend's wedding, and he came to that, and he always had his rubber band joke. Howard Finkel always had the rubber band. He'd be very serious. He'd come to the mic, everybody would listen in, and he would always say, "Can I have your attention, please? Would the person who lost the wad of $100 bills in the rubber band please come forward? We found the rubber band." And a cheesy joke indeed,
Yeah.
but he would use that every single year. And, you get a lot of the same fans. So, everybody would kind of chuckle, and sometimes you get some new laughs, but you also had some people that were like, okay, Howard, we heard that last year, and I'll never forget, he did it for the final time, 2015, did the same joke again, big crowd, everybody's listening in, hits him with the joke. Jim Ross is standing next to me, and JR just looks up and says, "Oh, come on, Howard, give it up." And and they were good friends, but he, I'm sure, had heard that joke for 30 years, so pretty funny.
No, I can hear it in my head. I can see the man in the hat. Come on, Howard. Like,
Yeah,
really? I can see it.
right.
So, and you mentioned how the Hall of Fame that you run is so important to preserving the history. How does it pay tribute and respect to those who have passed away in pro wrestling?
So yeah, I mean, we don't just honor those who are still among us, some that have passed on, that can't make the ceremony. We always try to have their family involved, obviously. We don't just throw a name on the ballot. So, we can get a name in there and not have the family there representing. This year, unfortunate situation. So this class was supposed to be inducted in 2020. COVID hit, so we had to postpone the show. So technically, this is the rescheduled 2020 class with a couple new ones sprinkled in as well to kind of fill the void of the few years that have passed. John Xavier, Ring of Honor, ECWA. I mean, he's wrestled all over, all globally. He's wrestled everywhere. But we informed him that he was being inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2020. He was thrilled. He really appreciated the honor, and unfortunately passed away. So recently I reached out to his family. We wanted to have them there. Scheduling wise, they're not able to make it. But they're super grateful for it. They want a copy of the ceremony, and we're going to send the award to them right after the ceremony's done. We have confirmed that Ron Zombie, fellow wrestler and fellow New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer, will be inducting John Xavier, and we will be getting the award to him. But in most cases, we want to make sure that the family's there. The late Matt Bourne, Doink the Clown, he was inducted in 2014, and his family was there. So we try to do that, and certainly want to preserve everybody, but certainly those that are lost. We want to keep that memory alive for sure.
Absolutely. It's a heartbreaking story, but I'm happy to hear it's going to have a happier ending.
Yes, when it's all said and done, his son will have the award. So something to be proud of,
No, absolutely. So in 2019, and what was a surprise to you, they inducted you, Joe Burrow, into your own Hall of Fame. Now, this was unbeknownst to you. Walk me through this experience.
Yeah, I mean, I knew nothing about that, and it's kind of a tough situation. It's like, well, okay, I'm the founder, I'm the person who runs it. I am not somebody, and they talked about it in the speech. I'm not somebody who wants to be recognized or noticed. I'm behind the scenes. Howard Finkel was always so kind to call me out every year during the ceremony, which I really appreciated, but I also was like, oh gosh, I don't want to be in the spotlight. And he would bring me out, and talk about everything that happened throughout the weekend, and let's hear a round of applause for Joe Bruen, and so this was similar to that. Derek Mulhan, he was inducted in the Hall of Fame, and um, he just came up and said he wanted to say a few words, and okay, that's fine. And then he announced that, that I was being inducted into the Hall of Fame, and you know, is it official? Is it unofficial? I don't know. But I really appreciated the gesture, and there is so much work that goes into these events. Um, a lot of people don't know behind the scenes how much actually goes into it. I mean, just the Hall of Fame ceremony alone, you got to figure what guests are coming, what comp tickets there are for past inductees, who their guests are, who's bringing a guest, who's not bringing a guest, the format of the ceremony, first and foremost, who's being inducted. All right, what's the class looking like? Who are the inductors for the inductees, and the order of, all of the speeches. And then we have the red carpet event where they are all interviewed, and got to make sure the DJ's set up. Okay, we need the stage, the podium, the stairs, everything that goes into it. So there's a lot that goes into it, and but it's a special evening each and every time. Everybody, I feel, enjoys themselves, and we have most of the speeches available online. We're all access entertainment on YouTube, all access with two X's, and you can go on there, and almost every year is up there, so you can watch the speeches individually, and it's a great opportunity to kind of get caught up and see what it's all about. So,
Oh, absolutely. And so you mentioned the various people that get into the Hall of Fame. How is somebody selected to be inducted into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame?
so there's a lot that goes into looking at it, and sometimes each situation is kind of different. We don't just recognize in-ring talents as far as wrestlers. We recognize everything from promoters to referees to agents to ring announcers, and everything in between, different personalities throughout the wrestling world. So um, years that you've put in, the impact that you've made. The New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, first and foremost, it's called the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame, but we recognize the entire East Coast. So, obviously you have to have some history in New England as well. We recognize local talents. We recognize talents that you've seen on television. It's a good mix of both. It's a good mix of different eras. The different eras are always represented. So, sometimes I get questions like, "Oh, well, why are they being inducted in the same class?" But we're not putting everybody in from the year 2000, in one class. So you're going to see somebody from the 80s. You're going to see somebody from the 90s, the 2000s, and beyond. Usually you have to have been in there 15 years minimum, put in 15 years before you're going in the Hall of Fame. Um, and there are unique circumstances as well for certain situations, certain individuals. There's just so much that goes into it, but that's what it comes down to for the most part. Accomplishments, impact made, years put in, how you carry yourself. There's just so much. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's not just a list that's thrown together. I mean, there really is some time put in to select, and like I said, I enjoy kind of representing different eras in one class.
So you mentioned the impact that Tim White has had on the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. He recently passed away, and I was wondering if you could share some stories about your interactions with him.
Tim was a good friend. I was lucky enough to call him a good friend. Big fan of Tim. I always respected the behind the scenes guys and the guys that maybe weren't in the spotlight as much, like a Howard Finkel, like the referees. Like, it always intrigued me, the photographers, those are the people I wanted to chat with. And my mom took me to Tim's bar when I was, I want to say 16, to try to meet Tim. You know, we had a Shirley Temple, and Tim was there, and Tim came out. He sat with us for a few moments, and you know, we kind of explained that eventually I'd like to do something in the wrestling business, and you know, maybe go to the WWF and do something there, or something. You know, I just wanted to be involved, and I guess we were looking for some type of advice as to, you know, how to go about doing that. And Tim was very helpful. He was very kind, with his time, and he recommended waiting a couple years so I'd be a little older, and then to, you know, apply with WWF, or you know, contact them again. Um, but I never ended up going the WWF routes. Did the independent thing, and you know, I actually ended up doing a skit. I worked for the WWF one time, and it was a skit on Monday Night Raw, February of 2002, and it was called Men's Night Out. And it was a bar brawl, and it happened to take place in the Friendly Tap, Tim White's bar, with Billy and Chuck and the APA getting into it. And I was one of the extras for that skit. So, you know, I came full circle from when I was 16 to, you know, now I was what, 2020. So, you know, and there I was in Tim White's bar again, and now actually working for the WWF, although it's just for one day. You know, that was special. And, you know, we ended up remaining in contact. I would see him, you know, he was a staple here in New England, and especially in Rhode Island. He was from Pawtucket, Rhode Island. He owned a house in Pawtucket. He still had an old car. He was very, you know, down to earth. But he was like an icon here in town, and you'd bump into him at Stop and Shop supermarket, or you'd bump into him at you know, a movie theater, and oh, Joe, thanks so much for the Christmas card. You know, we would exchange holiday cards. And I spoke to Tim not too long before his passing on the phone. I got a call from Tim, and just caught up really quick, and he wanted to know how the family was doing, and you know, always so genuine. And he's like, well, next time I'm in Rhode Island, we got to grab a drink together. And unfortunately, that never happened. But you know, just to get a call from Tim, you know, that he even just put in the effort, you know, was enough for me. And we had a great conversation. So, but over the years, you know, he appeared at the New England Icon Award he received in 2010. So he was there for that ceremony. Um, he ended up coming back in 2011 to see Chief Jay inducted. And I had a moment with Chief Jay where I went into his hotel room to make sure he was settled, and we kind of got him, you know, checked in. And I walked into the hotel room with him, and it was just Chief and I. And he was unpacking his bag and, you know, unzipping it, opened up and pulls out the headdress. And that was a cool moment to kind of see that. And I was the only one there, and I was just like, wow, there it is, you know, the headdress. And he laid it on the bed, and he was like, is Timothy coming? And he had a very faint voice as an older man. Um, and I said, yeah, Tim should be here momentarily, because Tim wanted to basically spend the day with Chief before the Fan Fest. This was like the day before, I believe. And so we waited out front, Chief Jay and I, and Tim White pulls up, and he's like, Timothy, you know, and he was so excited to see Tim, and they got to reunite. And Tim's like, oh, thank you so much for, you know, for getting Chief back here, you know. And I was like, well, I mean, we could thank Howard Finkel for putting that together. And so they got to spend the day together. They drove off, and, you know, probably hit the town. And that was a cool opportunity. And then Tim came back in 2013 as a vendor guest with Legends of the Ring at the Fan Fest. So he was at several Fan Fests, and it was always good to see Tim. But like I said, we kept in contact over the years, and Tim was just one of the most genuine people in the wrestling business. You can't get nicer than Tim. You know, I didn't even want to bother him. I saw him at Legends of the Ring, and I just stayed away. He was with Arn Anderson, who at the time was with WWE. So Tim was there as his representative. And, you know, I didn't want to take his time away. he called me over, introduced me to Arn, said, Arn, this is my good friend Joe Bruen. He runs the Fan Fest, and just put me over huge. And he didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of guy that Tim is.
Now, you mentioned the Fan Fest, and it's going to be returning for the first year since COVID this coming July. What can fans expect from the New England Fan Fest 8?
So we're going to be in Warwick, Rhode Island. It's at the Crown Plaza Hotel. That's on 801 Greenwich Avenue. It's our third time at the Crown Plaza. We were there in 2014, 2019, and it's a beautiful venue. Always has been, but they've actually renovated it. So they've put millions of dollars into this venue. So it's better than ever. Plenty of parking, free parking. They have a great restaurant, a pool. There's a new coffee shop that they built inside. So it's a really nice place to stay if you're coming as a fan or just want to spend the full day there. But this is on July 28th and 29th of this year. And that is the Hall of Fame ceremony kicking it off on the 28th. So doors open at 6 p.m. and the ceremony will be from 7 to 11. Tickets are available exclusively at immortalseats.com, or you can get them at the door as well that night. And then the 29th of July is the actual Fan Fest. So that is from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. We have a slew of talent coming. Actually, I can announce with you here today that this will be kind of an exclusive new guest announcement. We have the former First Lady of WCW, Missy Hyatt. She will be making a quite a rare New England appearance. She was a special guest ring announcer at my show back in 2001 here in New England, but she really hasn't appeared since then, as far as I know. So Missy Hyatt will be a vendor guest coming courtesy of Howell. And they're also bringing in some great talent like Gilbert and Gene Snitsky, the Blue Meanie, Hollywood John Tatum. So some great talent coming in there. We, of course, have our super ticket lineup, which I've put together. Everybody will be available for autographs, photo ops. You can simply buy a general admission ticket at the door, or you can pre-order it at immortalseats.com. It's very inexpensive. It's affordable for everybody. It's a family-friendly event. It's only $20 or just under to get in the door. And, if you're somebody who wants to just browse around, you don't have to meet people. You can just check it out. Always shake a hand if you don't want to pay for a photo op or whatever. But, there's also Q&As throughout the entire day. Q&A sessions from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. every hour. Q&As are free to the public, and as long as you have a ticket to the show. So you can honestly go sit in the Q&A room the entire day, and there'll be a different Q&A every hour. So super ticket lineup, we have Kayla Sparks, independent talent. We have Charlie Min, former host of the Action Zone with the WWF. It's his first in-person appearance anywhere. We also have Bill Dunn, former WWF ring announcer. He was there from the late 80s until 1997. He ring announced superstars of wrestling often. And he also ring announced WrestleMania 10. So this will be his very first appearance anywhere, very first meet and greet. Jack Corpella, former WWE announcer, commentator, very first appearance. As we spoke about, legendary photographer Steve Taylor in his very first appearance. We have Barry Horowitz, Mr. Hughes, Mike McGurk, another ring announcer, Duke the Dumpster Drosy, and of course the Big Red Machine Kane, courtesy of immortalseats.com. We have former WWE superstar Funaki. Of course, Dr. D. David Schultz will be there. Another rare appearance for the New England area. We also have Rockin' Robin and Haku coming in courtesy of Auction Andrew. We have Chick Donovan. We have Buff Bagwell with Cantu Promotions. Ahmed Johnson will be there, former Intercontinental Champion. So really, it's a who's who. Don DC Drake from ECW, the original ECW. We have the Man Beast Rhino. We have Devon Dudley.
Who don't you have?
Yeah, it's a good lineup. Joel Gertner from ECW, and lots of great talent. So we also have some superstars still to be announced. There'll be maybe 2 or 3 more. But a big announcement on July the 2nd. There'll be another announcement. So looking forward to it. Like I said, family friendly event. All tickets are available at mortalseats.com. This is on the 29th of July at the Crown Plaza in Warwick. It's 10 minutes from the airport, easy access off the highway, and something for everybody. We have dozens of merchandise vendors. There'll be podcasts there. You name it. There's going to be cosplayers. There'll be, Rhode Island Comic Con's going to be there giving away tickets. So, all kinds of stuff going on, and it's going to be fun.
Is there any part of it that you look forward to, like more than any of them, more than any other part?
I mean, first and foremost for me, the Hall of Fame ceremony the night prior, that's my baby. You know what I mean? That's special to me. So really looking forward to that. But the Fan Fest itself, I'm just looking forward to seeing old faces. You see people, you reunite with friends from the business, with fans, people you haven't seen in a long time. And this is the first one, like you said, since COVID for us. So a lot of people that we probably haven't seen in years. So, it's just like one big reunion, and that's going to be what I'm looking forward to. A lot of the vendors, I've used regularly. So I'll be able to see them again. And some vendors for the first time that I'm looking forward to meeting. This is the final New England Fan Fest. I did announce that it was the final New England Fan Fest. The Hall of Fame will continue, but it is going to be every 3 to 5 years or so for a big ceremony. But the full scale New England Fan Fest, this will be the final one. Not because I don't have the passion for it anymore, but when I started this, it was a little different. We lived in an apartment. I had one child. Now I have 6 children. I'm a homeowner, and there's a lot that goes into the Fan Fest. So, and it's I'm a one-man show as far as behind the scenes go. So putting together the Hall of Fame ceremony, like you said, is an undertaking in itself. But the Fan Fest as well. I mean, all the vendors and the logistics of the venue itself, and just everything that goes into it. It takes a year's work, and unfortunately, I just don't have that amount of time to put in, doing it by myself. So, so I am actually looking forward to this more than ever because this is the last one. So I really want to make it enjoyable. I want to, cherish the moments and meet everybody and talk to everybody at length. Hopefully, I'll be running around like a maniac, like I always am. But I want to take the time to thank everybody and maybe do some interviews with everybody so we can kind of have memories to look back on.
Absolutely. And you mentioned it's hard to find time. It amazes me. This isn't your full-time job. You have
No.
many more other responsibilities. How do you find the time to organize 2 massive events like this?
I mean, that's the thing. I work full time, and then when I get out of work, I'm sometimes up real late, just on a daily basis, doing this. Something different every day that goes along with the Fan Fest or with the Hall of Fame. I mean, it's a lot of people don't see that side of it. So, sometimes they'll get a message like, "Hey, you didn't get back to me yesterday." Well, I'm going through the list of but that's just how it is. There's so much that goes into it. But I like the challenge, and I always enjoy I enjoy all of it. There's nothing that I look at as work. I'm not like, oh gosh, not so I enjoy it all. So, I will miss it. But at the same time, I feel content with this being the final one. And we've had 8 Fan Fests, you know what I mean? Some on smaller scale, but for the most part, large scale Fan Fests. And it's been a great ride. I mean, so many different stories have come out of it. So a lot of memories.
I could talk to you forever, but unfortunately, we got to wrap this up here. So I'll have it with you with this last question. So if you had to choose a cartoon character to be your best friend, who would it be?
Oh man. Um, that's a tough one. How about Darkwing Duck? Let's get dangerous.
There you go.
You know?
That sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
It sounds like a wonderful idea.
One of my favorites as a kid.
Well, thank you again for sitting down with me, and I appreciate you taking the time here. It's been a wonderful experience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kevin. Anytime. Would love to come back.
Oh, please.